Well, next we're going to talk about Manchester United, and a club that's been heavily criticised, rightly so, to a great extent for their transfer business. But just looking at the end of this window now, with Rasmus Højlund, Jadon Sancho, Anthony joining Real Betis, Garnacho, you start to add this up, and they've not done too badly, have they, here in terms of sales? For a club that's heavily criticised for it, Marcus Rashford as well. You know, there are others, Elanga's brought in some money. Do we give them a little bit of credit here?
I think they've made the best of a bad situation. And I'll take the Garnacho one is quite a good example of that, because Garnacho has gone to Chelsea for 40 million. Now, Garnacho, in my opinion, is worth more than 40 million. He's 21, he's got Premier League experience, his ceiling is quite high if you can get it out of him. Madueke's gone from Chelsea to Arsenal for more than that. But in a situation that United created for themselves, with Amorim deciding that Garnacho wasn't going to be part of the squad, and everyone knows that he's available, he's not training with anyone, he's not part of the squad for the summer tour, everyone knows he wants out. I think 40 million is probably about as good a deal as they could have expected. So are those players combined worth more than the money that they've brought in? Yes. But have United done the best in the circumstances that they found themselves in and made for themselves, I must point out? Yes, I think both of those things can be true.
I think we have to accept that because I think there's often the comparison made between Amorim and Arteta in terms of manager coming in, a squad that's bloated with maybe some characters that are questionable. The churn that Arsenal went through, I mean, they paid off, I think it was 9 players in the end over a couple of seasons. They ripped up their contracts and got them off the books to just get them out the door, and cultural reset and all those sort of words we use, as I know has been said a lot about United. But they have actually got some money back through the door here. I mean, yes, obviously there's some huge losses in here, but I do feel as though, they've got to start somewhere, and not being in Europe, has that maybe helped them a little bit here? That they can say to these players, well, look, there are only, and now they've obviously already gone out of the League Cup, you've only got about 45 games, and that's if you get to the FA Cup final to go. So there's no point having this big squad. If you want to play and you're not part of the manager's plans, you really do have to go now.
Well, yeah, and it's also a World Cup year that people are obviously conscious of the game time. The Mainu one, obviously, it falls into that category, although he's going to stay. I mean, I think United do deserve credit for how they've navigated the window, because there was a point at which everyone will know that they were running on a tight budget anyway. Obviously, they weren't in Europe. That hits them even harder. There was a point after they signed Mbeumo from Brentford where United was saying, we don't know what else we can do now. Like, we're kind of maxed out with the budget that we started the summer with. But because they've brought in a little, a few fees here and there, the Elanga one was important. They weren't expecting Elanga to go to Newcastle, but they had a sell on there. So they got, I think, 6 or 7 million, which is helpful. The headroom that they created with Rashford going early to Barcelona helped. If he had gone on deadline day, you can't spend that money because you're not sure he's going to go, but that got done relatively early, so you can kind of factor that in. How they navigated the window allowed them to bring in Sesko earlier than perhaps they'd planned, and then has also allowed them to bring in Lemens, the goalkeeper, a deal that even a couple of weeks ago they were saying this probably isn't going to be possible. Now, again, lots of United fans will perhaps look at the window and go, I'm a little bit underwhelmed. It could have been an awful lot worse.
But those United fans, and anyone watching United, has to accept that there has to be some short-term pain to get back. And Arsenal's a really good example. You talk about what Arteta walked into and how it took, a couple of windows to get people off, the Ozils, the Aubameyangs. And you have to do it. You can't just, it's not like flicking a light switch, is it? You can't just say, right, in, out, we're done. Because it's going to carry on. I mean, next summer, Casemiro, I'd imagine, will leave on a free transfer when his contract expires. That'll be more big wages off the books. They have to get to a point where they've cleared out the deadwood, and they've got to a situation where financially they're on a stronger footing. We know what's going on off the pitch in terms of job losses and things. This is going to be a tough year. And I think you're right. I think by getting these players out, and in the past they've had a terrible record in terms of what they've got for players. So prior to this window, if you take away Angel Di Maria and Romelu Lukaku were sold for big fees, albeit at a loss from the big fees that they signed for. Scott McTominay at £25 million to Napoli was their biggest sale since Sir Alex Ferguson left, which is ridiculous. Look at, McTominay's done really well at Napoli. I think Elanga went for peanuts. Dean Henderson went for about £15 million to Crystal Palace. So they haven't really realised their value. I mean, look at Liverpool. I think got £40 million last year from Brentford for Carvalho and Sepp van den Berg. So Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea have done far better than United in terms of getting money in. This year, I think they've had a positive window, like you said. Look, they could have done with another midfielder, but they couldn't afford it. So they've turned the oil tank around a little bit, but it's going to still take a bit of time.
Just on that though, and we spoke to Ruben Amorim in the summer when we were away in Chicago, and one of the things he said was, can't do everything that we want to do in one window. And I think that's perfectly reasonable kind of explanation. They obviously wanted a more established number one. They need a midfielder, but he was very sort of straight with us and said, look, we've tried to do the best with what we've got. We can't do everything. The danger is, though, that the future never comes. And if you spoke to Erik ten Hag and Jose Mourinho and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, probably David Moyes and Louis van Gaal, they will all tell you that they started building the team that they wanted, and they were told by Man United, well, we can do what we can now, and in the next window we'll do a bit more. But for them, the next window never came because the results got so bad that they ended up leaving. Now, the danger for Ruben Amorim is that he does all this. They have the short-term pain that you've just mentioned. Results don't turn around. And by November, he's right under the cosh and he ends up getting the sack. And then they bring someone else in who wants to start all over again. And we're sat here in a year's time saying, it's going to be a bit of short-term pain. This new guy needs to make his own moves. And that is lots of United fans will be listening to this thinking, this future, this bright future that's always seems to be just starting, when is it going to arrive?
But that's right. But I think you mentioned Ten Hag there. I think we have to say, we're recording this on the day that he was sacked by Bayer Leverkusen after 2 Bundesliga games in charge. The mess that he left for his successor at Man United gets bigger and bigger every time. The players that he signed for massive fees, and he wanted these players. He wanted Anthony, he wanted Andre Onana. He basically wasted 3 months of his first window chasing Frenkie de Jong when de Jong and his agent had told United, I don't want to go there. So United and Amorim were unpicking the mess left by Ten Hag, who was probably unpicking the mess left by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But the big mess that Erik ten Hag left, I think, has been kind of underestimated, and I don't think Amorim has been given enough credit for having. Look, Amorim's made his own mistakes, and he's still making the mistakes, but he inherited a terrible squad from Ten Hag, some absolute dross.
One thing I would say though is that if we're sort of comparing Amorim and Arteta, where Arteta deserves a lot of credit is that he became very pragmatic very quickly while they were trying to get those players out the door, and it was about imposing the right discipline on the group. It was it wasn't an easy watch, and it wasn't smooth. We have to remember that, it's something that Arteta's never quite admitted, but I think he would in his private moments, that had COVID not happened and the fans had been in the stadium, I think he might have lost his job, because the fans were very frustrated with the kind of football they were playing, the sort of inconsistencies. But they managed to navigate that period because they were very pragmatic, and they got the results. That the FA Cup semi-final and the final of 2020 is a perfect example of that, where they were coached within an inch of their lives and they got over the line by kind of grinding it out. And I'm not sure Amorim, he's shown no signs yet of compromising, his philosophy to actually navigate this difficult period. It's all well and good, as you say, the future's going to be bright, but can he really sell this vision of this is the way I want to play when he palpably does not have the squad still to play that system?
Was pragmatic in many ways to save his job. Amorim is wedded to his system to the point where it might cost him his job, because it really is the situation now where it doesn't look to be working. A lot of the players don't fit the system, but he's still sticking with it. He won't have that courage to say, guys, this system of mine, let's put it on the back burner for let's get some results.
And that is the danger. The danger is that he sticks with a system with a group of players who don't fit it. He's trying his best to grind it out. I mean, if there's ever an example of grinding out a win, it's 3-2 at home against Burnley in the last minute with a stoppage time penalty. The danger is, though, that he doesn't get through this really dangerous period, and the pressure becomes too much, the pressure on the board becomes too much, and he loses his job. And then ultimately United are back to square one, looking for a new manager who's going to want his own set of players, coming in with his own system, and you just have to start all over again.
Quickly, let's just talk about the goalkeeper situation, because obviously that is something they addressed on deadline day. What do we know about Lamens? What do we know about where he's going to fit in terms of, will he start the first game after the international break?
Well, we don't. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've watched him play an awful lot. I mean, I know that he's highly rated in Belgium. He's had one full season playing for Royal Antwerp. By all accounts, he played very well. He's got deficiencies, as lots of young players have got. United are urging caution with this, that it would be. United fans will look at it and go, well, we've got trouble with Onana and Bayern. We've signed a goalkeeper on deadline day. He is the number one. Well, United are kind of saying maybe not. He's being billed as one for the future who will come in to the senior goalkeeping group now and boost that group and will compete for his place with Onana and Bayindir. Now, the first game after the international break is away at City, so in terms of baptism of fire, that's about as tough as it gets.
Well, imagine, I mean, if you're Ruben Amorim, you're having sleepless nights, aren't you? Thinking, right, I don't trust Onana, I don't trust Bayindir, but can I throw this kid into the likes of the Manchester Derby?
Well, I think Onana starts that game.
Especially when at the other end, he's probably going to be Gianluigi Donnarumma. Yeah, they could have signed, but they didn't sign. So, I would be amazed if Leben starts that game. I think it will be either Andre Onana or Bayindir. Just on that though, I mean, we're talking. We are giving United a bit of praise, a bit of love here for a change about their window. Could they or should they not have just gone a bit further and just got an experienced keeper in and a midfielder who can run?
Well, I think if you look at the window, you can move different parts around. Should they have signed Mbeumo and Cunha
and Sesko?
And Sesko, could they have signed two of those and then invested the rest of the money in a midfielder, a clear need in that system, or could they have spent the money on a more established number one? I think lots of United fans will look at it and think probably yes. I mean, there's a situation now that when Cunha and Mbeumo are both fit, that you've got Mason Mount, who Amorim loves, and also Bruno Fernandes, who probably both should be playing in those two number 10 roles, and you've got Ugarte, Casemiro and Mainu fighting for those two number 6 roles when really none of them really fit.
Do you get a sense, I can't believe I'm about to ask you about the next window with the only, just the last one's just shut, but do you get a sense with Balibo, who seemed to be the one that they were looking at for that midfield position, do you get a sense that they will now, if they've not already, start working on that for
I think so.
26?
I imagine that there was enough work that was put in during this summer for it to come out at all that there was interest. There was lots of reports that Balibo was quite keen to join Man United. Obviously, Brighton now are well aware of United's interest. Obviously, a lot can happen in a season. I don't think it's the type of deal that you can get done in January because of the numbers that are involved. But I think right now, if you were to ask Omar Barada and Ruben Amorim, who's your number one midfield target, I imagine that he would be quite high on that list. Whether it gets done or not, I don't know. Whether Amorim's even in charge at the time, who knows? But I imagine sat here right now, he'd be top of their list.